Good, good. Good morning. Go ahead and call the May Finger Lakes REMAC meeting to order. The minutes were distributed. If I could receive a motion for approval.
Well, the only correction is Dr. Cullen's name was incorrectly spelled, and that's been updated.
Okay. So with that revision, Dr. Glick, motion? Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Standing reports, Program Agency Director.
So we have a CME session next week during EMS week on the 24th. It's going to be held at the Ontario County Safety Training Center. We have the folks from FLREMSC's trauma program coming down and do some CME stuff, and we have some lifting and moving stuff. And we will be feeding the participants. We're going to cook some hot dogs and stuff prior to, I'm told Mercy Flight might land for those that wish to have a little in-service on the ship. That's it. We are just starting to gear up for our annual conference. The call for presenters has gone out. And aside from that, we're going into the summer months, so things will quiet down a little bit, I hope.
Great, thank you. Donna?
As far as paramedic program, we graduated 13 students. Practical was on Saturday, graduation was last night, so they're off and on. Some of them have already taken their National Registry exam, so that will be, as long as everything is in before the executive order goes away, they will have automatic New York State certification. We're praying. Some of them have not tested yet, so we'll have to take the New York State exam because they won't get scheduled in time if it comes up. And we are just finishing some spring classes, regular spring classes. We're starting some summer classes June 1st, and then we are moving forward towards what will be offered in the fall.
Great. I will mention that I participated in the difficult airway course with the graduating students, which was really, Jake did a really good job and had some pig lungs and set it up to the vent, demonstrating PEEP and some pig trachs and crikes, so it was nice. I think I'm next. So state meetings were last week. We attended. There was a variety of business discussed. I'll try my best to summarize. The integration of the New York State BLS protocols with the collaborative protocols is being reviewed by the Department of Legal Services and will be reviewed at the next meeting. There were some changes to protocols for advanced directives, DNR MOLST, seizure protocol, pediatric and adult for some doses, pain management protocols. All of those motions were carried, and then some discussion on protocol changes. And so those protocols will be reviewed annually and not released until 2024. So my understanding, John, correct me if I'm wrong, is that those changes won't be in effect until 24.
Yeah, January 1 of 24
So then
is what they're shooting for.
education will then need to be provided to the regions on those changes. And that was, further discussed by Dr. Marshall on that annual timeline. There was robust discussion on the administration of blood products for air medical providers, and that was passage of a recent Senate bill. There is a mirror bill that's currently in the New York State Senate to allow ground agencies to participate in that same process. That is different than the current transfusion certified process. This would actually allow ground agencies to carry blood for emergency calls, not just to transfuse for interfacility transport. So if you want to write our legislatures, there was a request to do so, to support that process. Presentation on 0305 Mark I kits, which Geneva General Hospital is a site for those. And I may regret this, but I rose my hand to be involved in the committee to discuss at the state level alternative medication formulary changes. So I will, I guess, be a part of that committee. I think the most lengthy conversation was had after a motion from Dr. Winslow in, I believe, Nassau County, Suffolk, that all providers practicing in a region be credentialed, using that verbiage, through a process determined by the REMAC. This was seconded by Dr. Cushman. The representative from Department of Legal Affairs made a motion that that was out of order, and that the REMACs it is not in their purvey to credential providers, and there was significant discussion. And at the end, the motion carried with further, I guess, opinion from legal services moving forward, whether the REMACs have the ability to do that. So I think the question is still out there. Okay. And then a brief discussion on utilizing point-of-care iStats on ground, in-ground agencies, and implementing phrases of if equipped and trained, using as a diagnostic tool, not falling under any specific protocol. Is nobody in our region is using iStat, correct? Okay. And that was basically it from medical standards. Those same topics were discussed at FLREMSC. And now I get to bore everyone with the book of
Enforcements.
nasty grams that John provided me. So I've been told I'll try to do this as quickly as possible, but I need to read out the actual violations of the sections and parts for record keeping. Casey Aldridge was suspended for 6 months, placed on probation for 3 years effective April 17th, and assessed a civil penalty in Antwerp, New York, for violations of 10 NYCRR Part 800.16A 1 and 2, 800.16A 13, and 800.16A 11. Scott Sterling from Prospect, New York, was suspended for 1 year effective April 17th, probation for 3 years, civil penalty of $2,000 for violation of 10 NYCRR Part 800.3 AM. Samuel Cooperman from Cortland Manor, New York, surrendered effective January 20th for violation of 10 NYCR Part 800.3 AK. Anthony Canestro from Castleton, New York, revoked effective March 13th for violation of 10 NYCR Part 800.3 AK. Brianna Gonzalez from Bronx, suspended 6 months effective March 22nd, probation for 3 years, civil penalty of $2,000, violation of 800.16A 1, 2, 3, and 9. Stefan Karezha from Wantagh, New York, for violation of 10 NYCR Part 800.16A 1, 2, and 3, suspended for 1 year effective June 13th, shall not renew certification upon expiration, and assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. Robert Marshall from Jamaica, New York, surrendered effective March 8th for violation of Part 800.16A 10. Gabrielle Oliveras from Staten Island for violation of 10 NYCR 800.3 AP1, surrendered effective March 20th, civil penalty of $500. The Patterson Fire Department from Patterson, New York, suspended for 1 year effective March 13th, probation 3 years, civil penalty of $2,000. Violation of PHL 3012 1B D and F, PHL 3005 4 and 3006, and 10 NYCRR Part 800.21 D, F, G, K, 1, and N, as well as 800.23 A and E and 800.24. Brian Reynolds from Rochester, New York, surrendered effective March 13th, a civil penalty of $2,000, violation of 10 NYCR 800.16A8.
All in one breath.
All in one breath. That's all I have. Scott?
Just on the topic of CQI and QA/QI, so anyone who's interested in helping to form the QA/QI committee or kind of moving forward, just kind of stick around afterwards to chat just for a couple minutes to figure out the next date to kind of sit down and start the meetings.
Great. Dr. Syrett, anything? Okay. RSI, RSA committee.
I'll take them. New course is coming up on 31st. Yeah. What date? Yep. Practice on the 31st, the practicals on the 7th. Mike will be recruiting people for the practicals from the position and experience of paramedic body. We started sending out readings. We completely revamped it. We just ditched all the papers and stuff. We're just kind of boiling it down. There are some additions to the course, so it will be different, but we can make the readings available to the other the active RSI medics whenever they want it. We are adding in some other new medications in part because there's going to be some shortages of the medications that we use, and the state will probably come out and say we can use other medications, but we haven't had training on them, which would mean that our RSI program would go down the tubes. Other than that, I mean, it's going, the readings have gone out, the class is full. I think it's what, 24? 21. So hopefully by the end of June, we'll be able to come back to you guys with approval for the RSI, the medics that have been passed out.
Great. Thank you. Is anybody from New York here, the state?
Yep, Lisa's right.
Oh, Lisa, hi. Nothing? Okay. Mercy Flight Central.
Nothing crazy for me. We have our upcoming education conference next Friday at the Ramada. So it seems like you guys had your conference. If any of you want to register, I have a link. 6 CMEs and I have 25 registration fee.
Very good. LifeNet Guthrie. Not here. If we could maybe just go around the room with any ground agencies that have a report.
I'll take Wayne County. The county or Lions Ambulances, who I'm the medical director for, submitted a plan to the region for their withdrawal from service July 1. Wayne County EMS, the new agency, ground-based ambulance agency run by the county, will be taking over that service area and CON, and it was submitted to the region if anyone wants to see that. Essentially be a transfer of ownership of ambulances and everything. So, from the county standpoint, our county EMS program is moving forward. We've secured 2 locations for our first 2 bases. We already have a couple of ambulances getting made pretty, and we've advanced our purchasing of new ambulances moving forward.
Great, thank you.
I guess the other thing from Wayne County, I believe we received notice that SOTUS ambulance are not here.
So is town?
SOTUS town, yeah.
Yeah, we have not received it. We've heard a lot of stuff.
Yeah, incoming communications from SOTUS town ambulance. I'll leave it to them to provide it to the region.
Great. Anybody else? No other reports? Okay, Dr. Osborne.
Really not too much to report from us, no significant changes. We do have a tentative date for the Rural Trauma Team Development course on August 10th. So as a sign-up becomes available, there is limited seating, so as soon as we get a sign-up, we will make that available to everyone. And then the only other thing I would say is that Tuesday, between 5 and 8, we're going to be hosting small cookouts outside of the EMS entrance at Thompson in appreciation for EMS.
You said Tuesday?
Tuesday. There will not be steak and lobster. We're a small not-for-profit system, but probably some Dodgers, soda, chips, chance to relax.
Sounds good. Newark Clifton.
Yeah, so James and Marita are here. For Clifton, the Clifton ED is still not open, and the holdup is still the Office of Mental Health. And for Newark, we're going to have our EMS day on May 24th. And we're going to do garbage plates, soda, water, stuff like that. You guys, do people want other stuff? I don't really know what's
Like, is there a time for that?
all day in the EMS day.
Take them off yourself, good.
All right, noted. Work on that budget for that, so, all right.
Are the inpatient beds at Newark, the psych beds, they're not open, are they?
Inpatient psych at Newark.
The ones that were temporarily discontinued?
Since I've been working there since, almost 2 years now, we've never hospitalized people for
Yeah, yeah.
psych.
They're
Are you
still
saying the
licensed
Physical
beds.
beds that we use?
Well, they're still licensed, yeah,
Oh.
beds, yeah.
Yeah, we transfer out all psychs, and then in terms of the physical use for those for other purposes, if that's what you were asking, I'm not sure.
Okay. I don't really have anything additional. We're busy. Any old business?
Nothing, well, just a recap. Part S of the New York State budget, the governor's budget that we discussed the last time around, did not pass as it was initially written. There are parts of it that passed. The biggest piece of it is the creation of task forces that can be used in the event of deployments and et cetera, where the state will provide specific funding for specialized type units that are available for deployment. So more to come on all that. And also as part of that, there was an additional, I think it was $36.4 million that was dedicated for Medicaid ambulance payment increases. We don't know what kind of criteria or et cetera that was, that is going to be used, but so it looks like they're going to increase the ambulance payments for Medicaid in some fashion.
Oh,
Anything more with the dispatch definitions, or is that a dead issue?
So the counties were, Yates County addressed it on their own. Ontario County was looking into it, and I got no responses at all from Wayne County or Seneca County.
so per our prior discussion, I don't think Dr. Cullinan's here, but there was some discussion on regard to whether we would then, I guess, promote advisory with clarification of some of the language. Scott, I think you had made that motion?
So I had motioned to make a written recommendation or
Yeah.
to the dispatch centers. What they would use, where they would go with it would be unknown, but
Just a heads up, based on how this goes, last year 28% of our total call volume includes transfers from mutual aid. After discussions with our attorney, we've been canceled on a lot of these mutual aid calls because there's a total ambulance on the scene. So either there was just an EMT and no driver, no ALS provider, and we're getting canceled on them. It's becoming a huge liability for us because if they get on scene, and there was 2 incidents last month where we got canceled where no ambulance was on scene. We didn't find that out until after the call. There's a lot of talk on liability on stuff. If we don't come up with a standard, we're going to pull out contract with agencies that want our service. We'll have outlines on how this is going to operate. But if this happens sooner or later, based on discussions with LISC, and our attorneys and the liability problems, you're looking at about 3,700 calls that we got to come up with a plan for yearly. We can't continue to staff not knowing who's in service or whatever. We are truly the fallback of the region
service that's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
So there will be a significant issue as far as response times, patient cares for these agencies if they don't come up with something. The other discussion we had is we want to get political leaders, some of our medical directors, the counties involved in these discussions so they're aware. But, when you can't budget for 3,600 calls and, it's not the cost of doing the calls, it's the cost of writing this one. We are stripping our areas to cover everybody else. So if we get a call, no matter where it is, we have a rig available, we'll send it. We don't hold back. We don't refuse calls if I got crews in service. So we dump everything, which backs up our response area as far as calls I haven't been able to respond, as well as some of the staff transfers and regular transfers coming out of the hospital. So this is going to be a system-wide issue in the very near future. And please do not take this as a threat, it's just the reality of doing business. So I'm not sure who we need to bring to the table to start having discussions about what's considered in service or not in service. I mean, we really do not have an EMS system in this region. Every agency can pretty much make up their own rules on how they want to handle things, and there's no oversight on that. I did tons of FOIL requests with the state and the counties. Lots of the stuff we don't get information on. I tried to get just, hey, how many transfers comes out of our regional hospitals? They sent me a list of how many transfers, but there's no times or dates, so I can't even do a demand analysis. So it's very difficult to see how we're supposed to fit in a system that we can't get actual data for to make the decisions. So that's
So
basically it.
EMS counties have mutual aid plans and agencies have mutual aid plans. Doesn't fall on the REMAC to sort out county EMS mutual aid plans. We're advised, that's terrible. Hopefully Finger Lakes will partner in the future with the counties and try and help them. But I think REMAC should be cut out of it at this point.
Can't REMAC advise the counties to update their plans, considering the Terracotta's plan is from the early 2000s, if not late 1990s?
The state can advise them to update the plan.
I don't think there's any definition that requires a mutual aid plan for ambulance services.
Every county has a mutual aid plan, though, right?
It doesn't mean it affects ambulance services.
Every county has an ambulance mutual aid plan. I've seen the Wayne County one.
I'm not denying that, Doc. I'm saying it doesn't mean we have to follow it.
Okay. Well, but they're responsible for writing an effective mutual aid plan, so it becomes a county issue.
But if you look at the state does not define mutual aid for ambulance.
So, Al, we have to clarify, but mutual aid plans were in the original Part S.
Right.
And I'm not sure if that was cut out or not.
It was, and that's why they're looking at task force to figure out how to set it up. And this really kicked off from the Buffalo blizzard. Because originally the county was responsible for mutual aid. So the state kind of just said, hey, anybody who can help, contact us. They put us in touch with the county, and then the county was trying to draft up basically for payment on it. It wasn't an issue about us being able to utilize our services. It was more of how these agencies were going to get paid for it.
Yeah, in the task force, I know they're they're thinking about putting forth a different avenue for payments rather than making everybody a contractor. So I know that's in discussion.
At the state level, correct.
Yeah.
But I think we got quite a while before that happens because those changes are Part S. And the budget has to go through the regular legislative process, I believe.
So is Finger Lakes advise the counties that they're changing your mutual aid approach?
Well, I don't have a contract with the counties. The last contract that was signed, and I will say, Wayne County has done a lot for their mutual aid contracts, and pretty much the only county that's done up to date on it. But like Mike said, is Ontario County hasn't touched it in almost 20, 25 years. And it's really not specific anywhere in the law that it has to be provided by another ambulance service. I mean, technically, if you look at it, it's all based on CON. So if an agency doesn't have a CON, the CON holder is supposed to get first notifications. So simple mutual aid on the current process, if Newark doesn't have an ambulance and they call for mutual aid, system. Basically, if primary service isn't available, it should go to Wayne County, not a neighboring EMS agency based on our licensure of the areas. So these next door neighbor mutual aid calls ultimately should be going through another CON holder.
Which would hurt these next door.
Exactly.
Which would do what, Mike?
It would hurt the next door agency because that would, well, I'll use Ontario for example, that would be 17% of calls they would lose if you follow the letter of the law and said that it goes to a CON holder. But then the question is, there's multiple CON holders, who in the CON holder gets it? Because if someone, let's say AMR, Finger Lakes, and somebody else are a CON holder, how are you gonna do it? You're gonna give it to one, not the other? You're gonna, that's another thing that needs to be discussed.
There is no closest call concept for EMS.
Correct.
So technically, I think somebody brought up Town. So if there was, Town got called to Newark if there's no other ambulance services available, well, they're basically driving across the county to get this call. I mean, not the greatest thing for patient care at all. And I think that personal belief is that's where the region can come up with advisories to say, hey, this is how we feel, whether the counties don't want to do it or not. It gives at least some protections to the next door neighbor agencies. Because I think the last time I found it was $10,000 for violating COIs. And all our EMS agencies are struggling.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
I think that it doesn't fall under the umbrella of REMAC. We had this discussion before. We did receive the communication from the region, and the powers that be felt that they have so many other things going on right now that this was not a priority, and there was other things that were more expeditious. So I know that the communication was received, but we didn't even know what to do with it, to be honest with you.
So, I don't want to belabor this so long, but, so I differ in that I think, so the purview of the REMAC is to ensure basically, the quality of care that's within our region, right? So we're almost a representative to all of our, our population, our citizens, so if we recognize an issue, right, that's affecting the quality of care, which I think this is, we already established we don't have authority for anything, but like, what is our obligation, our ethical obligation,
I think we have to be cautious about whether it even affects the quality of care. National Association of EMS Providers just came out and stated that response times are probably not having as big an impact on any quality as we originally thought. And so that's being studied right now. I mean, it's a gray zone. It's like we have so few resources to do the things that we're actually mandated to do. I think redirecting to the things that we're mandated to do would be a better use of our resources.
So what was the response from, so you said you didn't receive a response from two of the counties, but the ones that you did, Director John,
So
what did they say?
So
again?
Yates County actually took the policy and almost verbatim instituted it with a few minor tweaks. I can let Ryan speak to that, but.
Yeah, I mean, really, I read the policy and, the context was good, and I just took it and kind of shaped it to what would, I thought would fit our county the best. I mean, with our, the county system coming into play, we have to rewrite everything anyways, so it was a good time to reevaluate response times and all that as well. But it also helped that we were able to take something like that and define, levels of care and, who's in service and who's not, which we haven't had in the past.
But Yates County's got it a little bit, I'll call it easier, because there's only, right now, 3 transporting ambulances and will be
Yeah.
4. That's easier to manage than 20.
Well, I guess breaking it down to the simplest, you know, I know there's some difference in opinion on whether it's, you know, our purview, but, you know, we do have an active issue, which I think, you know, you know, in my mind, you know, first of all, have we brought it to their attention effectively? Yes. Have we documented that we feel that there's that this could be affecting the quality of care within our region, which we're not, I don't think we're responsible for proving it. I think we're responsible for almost policing it in a way, you know, and seeing, I shouldn't say policing it, but monitoring kind of the pulse within our region to see if there are any active issues. So, you know, I think that the counties that are you know, that are updating their plans, great, it's done. You know, sounds like Yates and Wayne are done. You know, the other counties, I think, my opinion at least, is some official communication with them to just to put on the record to say that we feel that there could be an issue that's affecting the quality of care within the region, and this seems to be your area, your wheelhouse, not ours. You know, we're kind of referring to the agency that works alongside of us, not us, because obviously we can't change the dispatch policy. So we're just looking to have open dialogue about it. So
I think the question always goes back to who is responsible for this stuff. And I think over the last few years of being at the committee, there's been a lot of talk on what you guys can and can't do, especially being our medical directors for the region. Is there, I mean, I'm pretty sure the region has an attorney, correct, John?
Well, we can't have an official attorney on file. We can have it on a retainer, but we have an attorney that we use as needed. But the problem with that is funding. There's no funding for attorney legal expenses.
So is there any way, seeing how you're a committee of the state by law statute, is there any way that perhaps we can hire an attorney to write up an opinion letter and send it to the AG office to see what you guys can and can't do? Because there seems to be, you know, as Dr. Surratt says, a lot of gray area. Ultimately, it would really come down to the AG's office. I know other regions have done that in the past.
Well, again, it comes down to funding, and there's not the funding available to hire an attorney for that.
So what happens if the region gets mentioned in the lawsuit? Who funds that?
Well, we have to cut programs to come up with any kind of revenue, but then there's no guarantee that the state's gonna pay for it.
So we're just gonna continue doing what we're doing?
Well, if Finger Lakes Ambulance wants to fund an attorney,
Well, I think, as I said, you guys are a committee of the state.
well, technically they're not. They're a subcommittee of the REMSC.
Well, that's what I meant, the program itself, the REMSC would do that. Why can't the medical directors make a motion to say, hey, we would like this done? I mean, ultimately, it is for their protection as well. Being medical directors, I mean, do you guys really know what your authority is? To me, it's a job description. You know, what can you do, what can't you do? And I understand there's a cost to it, but there's a cost to everything UNS does.
Not sure if there's a motion on the table.
No.
if you were to ask me what the REMAC's authority, definition, and active role was 4 or 5 years ago, I'd probably say it was drastically different, you know. I gotta be honest, I'm not 100% sure now with changes and challenges to the authority of the REMAC and the responsibilities, really what our role is. And we, even when we did have, to be honest, even when we did have an attorney come to speak for us, we still didn't get a clear definition, and we asked the state, and the state basically said, well, we're working on
The
things.
state,
And
the state can't give us.
I think our
Yeah.
official, certainly as a Med Director, I'm very well aware of the legislature that's in place and the definitions that are provided about medical directors. Other than that, everything else is opinion-based, but I'm aware of the stuff that's written down. I'm aware of all the discussions at all of the state meetings, as I'm sure everyone else is. I'm not sure. Again, there's no motion on the table.
Yeah, I mean, even the discussion around credentialing for regions at the state meetings, the motion that was made by Dr. Winslow was found objectionable by the DLA. And that was even in regard to developing very, very simple region-specific education and training so that you are credentialed in that region. Meaning like review of the collaborative protocols and region-specific, hospital destination, transport destinations. But because there was a test at the end of that, the DLA said that you cannot do that, because then what would you do then if somebody failed the test? And then there was a discussion about revocation of credentialing, and that you cannot revoke someone's credentialing. So the opinion of the DLA is that all of this falls on the agency medical directors, that they are the only ones that have any power to make a decision on their agency medics. So I don't know. I struggle too, Al. I'm not saying that there's not an issue. I don't know what the power is for the REMAC to make a regulatory, I don't know, a regional specific protocol for triage and dispatch decisions.
Well, I don't think it's just those two issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I go back to what Scott said, to me, as an agency leader, and I would assume when I was a provider, I look to answers from our medical directors, both agency and region, to make decisions on how we provide care. And I think we really need to get, you guys really need to get some clarification on it. And to me, not having funding for an attorney to look into these questions, then ultimately, why are we sitting in this room if we can't really do anything? And I'm not trying to stir the pot, I'm just trying to figure out how we can create something that works.
Yeah.
I don't think the REMAC or the REMSCO has the money to spend the money. I mean, I don't know if there really are any alternative funding sources, to pay it. That's my only observation, So if somebody offered pro bono work to us and I had to propose a question to be asked, to the state and to the, of course I'd hire them and I'd put my, I'd like them to represent me. But I guess I don't know if we're going to find that answer to that question of where the funding comes from, or where we could find it, today at this meeting. And I'm not sure which direction to go to find the funding.
I don't think it's up to the REMAC to find it out. I think it's up to the REMAC to say, hey, we want to know what we're responsible for. Take it to the REMSCO, have the REMSCO address it through the state. Our medical directors want to know this. So they can make decisions to basically follow what's in statute. Treatment, transport, all this. What are these definitions? We want to do the job, we want to help the committee, but we don't know what we can and can't do. So, and to me, I truly believe that the REMAC doctors can make a motion to take that to the REMSCO and then have them take it from there. Ultimately, it gets it off this committee's hands because you guys are actively trying to find answers. Right now, it's just whatever. And I don't think one person having the knowledge on, I know what medical directors do, personally, I don't think that's true because you guys are all medical directors. Everybody should know what they're capable of doing or not doing. And everybody in this room does not know that, including the agency leaders, who this truly affects the most because, between budgets and funding, which we're all struggling, how many agencies have closed? Let's take a look and design something that works. It's not based on one agency. This is not for Finger Lakes Ambulance. This is for the EMS community. I don't care what name's on the side of the ambulance.
Yeah, what's the downside to taking that to REMSCO?
are we still talking about the EMS mutual aid
I'm
plans?
still
Yeah.
putting this on the table, because I'd like to bring something up unless we.
There was not a motion. I mean, the last, Scott had made one in a prior meeting, and then we had,
It was defeated.
it was.
Didn't pass.
Oh, yeah, maybe like my idea.
It's a great discussion, but it's not going anywhere. I just asked to move on the agenda.
But this is anything to do with the mutual aid plans, it should be brought to the individual counties that have the EMS coordinators that set up the individual plans, regardless. So this committee has nothing to do with that. It would be, I
Well,
mean, we
can
could
we-
with advisement.
Yeah, I mean, better yet, I mean, could we just pose a question to the individual county coordinators, like you're saying, for an answer? So
I
could we
think
motion?
that was the
to-
original,
So,
like, that was the original consensus of the medical directors.
You're still in the same boat, it's just reversed. So this committee wanted to take something to advise the counties. The counties cannot make independent agencies do mutual aid. They can't, they can come up with a plan, they have no authority on this. So all we're doing is just throwing more stuff in the pot and not getting answers.
so there's really, if I could just rewind, so there really is like two issues with mutual aid, right? I mean, one is payment, but one is duty, right? So the idea that like, if a unit's not available within a, primary CON owner, then you, I think by statute, right, you have to go to anyone else who has a CON for that area, right? As an order of response, right?
Correct, that's how it's supposed to
But,
work.
but more on that with the CON is more for billing, right? Because then, because theoretically, if there's no CON owners that are available, then you can go to the next available, right? Or whoever an agreement is made with,
It's not as simple as
right?
that, because the 911 center is managed by federal, and they have the state has less say, so they can send whoever they want. And there's a lot of questions at multiple stages along it for mutual aid. The only key kind of consistent thing is that mutual aid is meant to be mutual. So if someone's responding into your district, you have to offer this as close to the same service to their district as well. It can't be contractual or anything else. It's just mutual aid. Can you help
But
us? We'll help you.
doesn't every agency have to have a written mutual aid plan?
No, some agencies don't have to participate at all in mutual aid.
Well, they have to have it part of the DOH party under the regs.
Right, but the plan can be, we don't participate in mutual aid.
They can subscribe to the county mutual aid plan.
Right. Most people just subscribe to the county. In fact, most people subscribe to the county. Some agencies,
Gotcha.
like even in Wayne County, don't.
So just to play devil's advocate, so let's say all the agencies right now that are participating in the county mutual aid plan, if Finger Lakes was to pull out of the county mutual aid plan, and the county can no longer use them, what would the plan be? And I think that's a question
Well,
to say, hey,
I'll tell
listen,
I'll tell you
what
the
is your
counties will
plan?
say is,
Because
if a
this
large
is gonna-
agency like Finger Lakes is pulling out of mutual aid, they want a letter saying they're pulling out of mutual aid so they can make appropriate plans.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe that's the
Finger
better.
Lakes can pull out of it anytime they want.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the better avenue, Al, to say, unless we can find a productive, satisfying answer to all the agencies that, on this date, our plan is to, so kind of set a timeline that, what would the plan be if we pull out on this date? So then you've given ample notice, and the county and all the agencies then can think about, well, hey, what would the plan be? And the plan may be that, hey, we're going to find a better system so that you could provide quality care to your contracted entities while we're providing, quality care to all of our citizens.
Oh,
So.
I understand that. I'm not looking to say, hey, we're gonna pull the rug out from this
Yeah.
tomorrow. But, this is all opinion based on how this should work. And that's what I'm saying. So if I'm technically not gonna happen, but if it does, I can say, hey, starting tomorrow, we are covering mutual aid.
But it's not gonna happen.
So what happens then? And, as Dr. Surratt said, mutual aid is supposed to be mutual. You know, I looked at statistics last month, Wayne County ALS has done 2 calls for Finger Lakes in Palmyra in the last 2 years. You know, we've done how many calls in Wayne County, you know, thousands of calls. It's not mutual.
You have a CON for Wayne County, though, for 50 miles from Clifton then. So you're actually a CON holder, right?
Correct.
So you have a CON. So it's not mutual, right? If you respond into Wayne County under your CON, you're responding under your CON, not under mutual aid. Unless you're the second, even if you're the second person dispatched, you have a CON. And you have a CON for all those areas, unless you're also giving up on your CON for those areas.
So we have a license to operate, doesn't mean we need to operate.
But that's a business decision.
I know,
And you're coming in saying, we're not going to do it, but if we did, well, as a hypothetical, what are you going to do? Because I don't want to spend half an hour of my time talking about hypotheticals. Hypothetically, every agency in Wayne County could go belly up tomorrow, and the county would have to figure out what to do, right?
Well, they're doing that right now, aren't they? They're going to service in to basically make sure if that happens, that they have a system.
Our county, we've decided that the way to provide EMS services in Wayne County is to have a county-based system, just, you know, in part because we understand that Finger Lakes do provide service in our county, and you can turn around, as you said you might do, and pool any mutual aid responses, and the county has to be prepared. The only way to be prepared is to have the resources available to respond to calls. I think Yates County's doing it the same way. They're not sure if you're going to stick around and help them out, so they're going their own way as well. I mean, pretty much most counties in the state are seeing that you can't rely on the commercials because they have a different set of goals, and it is a finance-based decision that's being made by the commercial organizations. So,
Dr. Stratton, I think you're picking on commercial ambulances.
I'm not picking on commercial ambulances.
Well,
You were the one that came in here and said that you were thinking about possibly taking away mutual aid from the towns, and you wanted to kind of warn us about what might happen, but it might not.
I advise you the discussions that were occurring.
So advised. Can we move on with the agenda? There is no, this is not an open, this is a meeting where we work on motions. There's no motion on the table. If there's a motion, I'll discuss it, but there's no motion.
I agree. Is there another motion on this subject? Is there any other new business?
I have a question.
Yep.
Make a question. Has this body had any thought or action about creating advisement or standards for non-specialty medical director requirements? What I mean that is that there is a requirement for any RSI agency to have a medical director that is an emergency physician, but non-specialty agencies do not have any requirements. Has there been thought of it, of having some sort of guidance or directive from this body as to who can be a medical director for an agency in this region?
I suggest you refer to the state
in the state.
regulations.
It's a state
It's
process.
already there.
So it's okay to have a medical director who lives out of state, is what you're saying?
As long as they
There
carry
is,
New York
as long as
State
you have a New York
license,
State
yes.
license, you can live anywhere you want.
I just don't think that's fair and proper, but I understand. I will withdraw my question.
I mean, you do know that AMR's chief medical officer, chief medical director is based outside.
Right, but they have a medical director.
Yeah, we have
I'm
agencies.
withdrawing the question. I don't want to get into an argument, so.
Any other new business? Motion to adjourn?
Whoever wants to be involved with QA, QI, come on down.
Can you just text me the date? I got
Yes, absolutely.